The Sonoran Desert, December 1944. The temperature at night dropped to freezing, and the wind howled across the flat, empty land like a warning. Inside Camp Papago Park, 3,000 German prisoners of war, mostly U-boat and Kriegsmarine officers captured in the North Atlantic, were supposed to be thinking about surrender, about the war that was already lost. Instead, 25 of them were thinking about freedom. They called themselves the Düsseldorf 25. Their leader was Kapitänleutnant Hans-Werner Krauss, 29 years old, commander of U-352 before a U.S. destroyer sent her to the bottom off Cape Hatteras. Krauss had sharp blue eyes, a sailor's patience, and the quiet authority of a man who had already accepted death once and decided he preferred life on his own terms. Around him gathered the best minds the Kriegsmarine had ever put to sea: engineers, navigators, welders, and one very stubborn boatswain named Jürgen Wattenberg, who had escaped British captivity twice before and swore he would not rot in Arizona. The Americans believed Papago Park was escape-proof. It sat 30 miles from the Mexican border in a bowl of desert surrounded by barbed wire, watchtowers, and the 101st Airborne training nearby. There was no water for hundreds of miles, only the dry, salt riverbed and the Arizona Canal that ran along the northern edge of the camp like a mocking blue ribbon. The guards joked that even if a prisoner got out, the desert would kill him before breakfast. The Germans looked at that same canal and saw the North Sea. Phase 1. The Tunnel. They began in July 1944. Every evening after the 5 p.m. count, a group of prisoners played volleyball near Barrack 21. The ball was deliberately slammed out of bounds again and again toward a patch of creosote bushes. While the guards laughed and the searchlights swept overhead, 2 men crawled under a carefully prepared fake floor in the latrine and vanished into a 3-foot-high tunnel. They dug with spoons, bayonets, and a homemade pick fashioned from a bed frame. The sand was carried out in cigarette tins and scattered under the volleyball court. By November, they had 178 feet of tunnel, longer than a U-boat, running north under 3 fences and emerging in the irrigation ditch beyond the wire. They called it Faustmann's Folly, after Oberleutnant Friedrich Wilhelm Faustmann, the civil engineer who calculated every inch with a slide rule stolen from the camp library. Phase 2. The Boat. A tunnel was useless without a way to travel. The Salt River was bone dry, but the Arizona Canal was 20 feet wide and carried irrigation water all year. If they could reach the canal, float west 14 miles to the Gila River, then south to Mexico, they would be free men again. They needed a boat in the desert. Jürgen Wattenberg found the answer in the camp scrap pile: empty 50-gallon oil drums from the motor pool. The prisoners worked in the camp theater, officially building stage props for the Christmas play. Behind the scenery flats, they welded drums together with oxyacetylene torches, lined the hull with canvas from army tents, caulked seams with axle grease and tar stolen from the roofing detail, and painted the entire 24-foot craft battleship gray. They named her Rocky 8, after the 7 failed prototypes that sunk during secret midnight tests in the camp laundry vat. They even built collapsible oars from bed slats and life preservers from kapok stolen from life jackets in the camp firehouse. Phase 3. The Disguises. American uniforms were easy. The camp tailor shop made them every day. The Düsseldorf 25 simply misplaced 9 sets of fatigues, dyed them darker with coffee grounds, and sewed on fake sergeant stripes. They forged leave passes on paper stolen from the camp office, using a typewriter they borrowed during air raid drills when the guards were distracted. The final touch? Each man carried a small suitcase made from Red Cross boxes containing civilian clothes donated by sympathetic Mexican-American kitchen workers who believed the Germans were only trying to get home to their families. 23rd December 1944, the night of the long knives and longer oars. At 19:15, the camp loudspeakers announced the Christmas choir rehearsal. While 2,800 prisoners sang Stille Nacht in perfect four-part harmony, the 25 slipped away in groups of 3 and 4. They crawled through Faustmann's tunnel like ghosts, emerging one by one in the irrigation ditch 178 feet outside the wire. The desert night was cold enough to see their breath. They assembled Rocky 8 in under 9 minutes, a drill they had practiced 50 times in the theater. The boat slid into the Arizona Canal without a splash. The current was gentle. The stars were bright. For the first time in years, Hans Werner Krauss felt the familiar roll of a deck beneath his feet. They paddled west under the noses of the watchtowers. A guard dog barked once, then lost interest. By midnight, they had covered 6 miles. At 2:30, they reached the confluence with the dry salt riverbed. They beached the boat, collapsed it into sections, buried the oars, and marched south in 3 separate groups, 9 men each, led by Krauss, Wattenberg, and Faustmann. The plan was simple: walk 30 miles to the Mexican border, cross at dawn, disappear into Zamora. But the desert is never simple. Day 1, Christmas Eve. The temperature climbed to 105 degrees Fahrenheit by noon. Water was the first enemy. Each man carried 1 canteen. By dusk on Christmas Eve, most were empty. They chewed on cactus pulp and kept moving. American search planes roared overhead. The escape was discovered at morning count when the guards found 25 perfectly made beds, each with a dummy head fashioned from towels and painted with boot polish. The camp commander, Colonel William Holden, nearly had a stroke. Day 2, Christmas Day. The U.S. Army threw everything into the hunt: the 101st Airborne, cavalry units from Fort Huachuca, P-51 Mustangs, and even Apache Scouts. Roadblocks went up on every highway between Phoenix and Nogales. Meanwhile, Jürgen Wattenberg made the mistake of following a dry wash that turned out to be a tank training ground. At 1400 on Christmas afternoon, a bored American sergeant on maneuvers spotted 9 men in makeshift uniforms marching in perfect formation. He thought it was a joke, until Jürgen Wattenberg saluted and said in perfect English, "Merry Christmas, soldier. We are on maneuvers." The sergeant was not amused. Wattenberg's group was captured without a shot fired. Faustmann's group was taken the same day, hiding in a barn near Tempe, betrayed by a farmer who noticed 9 men trying to milk a cow at 3 a.m. Only Group Krauss, 9 of the hardest, luckiest U-boat men alive, kept moving. Day 5, 28th December. They were down to 3 canteens between 9 men. Lips cracked, feet blistered. They walked only at night, guided by the stars Krauss knew from the North Atlantic. On the 5th night, they reached the Gila River, actually flowing for once because of upstream irrigation releases. They had no boat left. Rocky 8 was 40 miles behind them. Hans Werner Krauss looked at the dark water and made the decision every U-boat commander dreads: abandon the damaged ship, save the crew. They built 2 small rafts from cottonwood logs and barbed wire, crossed the Gila, and entered the Tohono O'odham Reservation. The Papago Indians wanted nothing to do with white men's wars. They gave the Germans water, beans, and directions: south. Day 9, 1st of January. The trail went cold. The Army called off the active hunt. The 9 remaining escapees were assumed dead in the desert. But on January 3rd, a Border Patrol agent near Sasabe, Arizona, 12 miles from Mexico, spotted tracks of military boots heading south. The prince simply stopped at the international line. No return tracks, no bodies. Hans Werner Krauss and his 8 men had vanished. The recaptures. Over the next 5 weeks, 16 of the 25 were recaptured alive. Some in Phoenix bars, some hiding in haystacks, one famously found asleep in a movie theater watching Casablanca. 3 were caught trying to board a train in Tucson wearing women's dresses stolen from a laundry line. Jürgen Wattenberg, the man who swore he would never be taken alive again, was the last. On January 28th, he was discovered in a cave near South Mountain, living on canned beans and reading Goethe at candlelight. When the American lieutenant ordered him out, Wattenberg stood up, clicked his heels, and said, "Gentlemen, the voyage is over."